Hello everyone, this is Andrew with Novus Computers and novuscomputers.com, and today we are going to be doing another Computing 101 video. This one is on a Microsoft Edge crash course. Microsoft Edge was introduced in Windows 10 as the browser replacement for Internet Explorer. So Internet Explorer is going away, Edge is going to be the new way of the future. I've had a couple of requests from folks for this one, so I'm going to kind of prioritize it a little bit. This is only going to be a quick crash course. I'm not going to go through every single option and everything in detail, but this should give you a pretty good idea about how Edge works, what's going on, and exactly how to use it for your day-to-day tasks and browsing. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get started here. As you can see, I'm getting an Edge window opened up right now. I'm going to kind of shrink it down a little bit here, and we'll leave it up full skies. So as you can see, I first brought the Edge window up, and if this is the first time you've ever used Edge, this is what you will see. There's a couple of things going on here straight off and straight away that we're going to take a look at. And the first thing is going to probably be the most burning question everybody has. Where do I type an internet address or search for anything? Well, that happens right here in this bar. This has become kind of the wonder bar, so to speak, for using Microsoft Edge. And what we can do with this bar is it is both the search bar and the address bar. A lot of other browsers, such as Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox, and I believe even Opera, now do this, and they've done it for a while. Edge also is no stranger to this, and I'm going to show you real quick, give you a couple of examples. So, for instance, if I'm making a web search for something, let's say I'm going to search for Kansas City. Maybe we'll take a trip there sometime. I'm going to go ahead and type in Kansas City and hit enter. And as you can see, it brings up a web search for Kansas City. However, if I want to go to a specific website, say for instance you want to go to our website, which is novus as in a hyphen or minus sign computers.com, as you can see there, and we hit enter, you can see it takes me directly to our website. So again, this can be used for either or. You can use it for web searches, you could use it for addresses. And if you scroll down the page a little bit, if you happen to glance, you'll see that it appears up here instead of where it was previously. If I scroll back to the top of the start page here, you can see it comes back. Another handy thing to know is that if I click the mouse button up in this area, you can see that it immediately brings that bar up here and I can start typing in it. So that is the basics there of the hybrid search and web address bar. Again, you can web search, direct internet address, whatever you want. It's all right here. So next up, we're going to take a look at the top corner over here. And we've got a couple other buttons over here you can see, but we've also got the tabs feature up here, which Internet Explorer had this feature. Many other browsers also feature tabs, so there's not going to be a huge amount of difference between the way they all work. If you're not familiar with tabs, then I'll just give you a quick rundown of what they are. If I'm at a certain web page, let's say we're back on our website here, and I go ahead and want to open another web page, I can simply click this plus button here however many times that I want, and then I can go to whatever other page that I want. Let's say I want to go to ESPN's website, and now I'm there. I can now switch back and forth between these two web pages, and as you can see, I now have two pages open, and they both are available for me to browse or view. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is great and dandy. Oh, by the way, if you hover over the tab in Edge, it will also give you a preview of that website. So as you can see, if I have ESPN active and then I hover my tab over here for Novus Computers, you can see that it displays a picture of it, and vice versa. So anyway, you might be thinking, well, that's all great and all, but what am I ever going to use this for? I don't need multiple tabs open. Why would I ever want something like that? Well, I'll tell you why you want multiple tabs open, because there's a couple things that make having the tabs very, very handy and very, very nice. So the first one we're going to do is I'm going to give you an example. We're going to do another web search here. Let's go back to our search for Kansas City. And as you can see, I've got a bunch of different links here. So let's say I'm not 100% sure of which website I want or which result that I want. So I'm just going to go ahead. I want to try out each of them. Well, okay, I can go ahead and click on this website and wait for it to load. And if it's not the one I want, well, then I can click the back button, go back to my search results, wait some more, which in this case, this page doesn't even seem to want to let me out. There we go. I can move on to the next link, and so on and so forth. But what if I knew there was a better way to do this? Enter tabs. Now, by simply middle clicking, and if you don't know what a middle click is, it's just pressing on the scroll wheel on your mouse. So if you push down on the scroll wheel, that's the same as a middle click. Alternately, you can also hold down the control button on your keyboard and just left click. But if I middle click on each of these links, you'll see up at the top, these are opening in new tabs. So now I've opened 3 different search results. I can still leave my search page here exactly as I want it, where I left off searching. I can browse each of these tabs now. Well, that's not the site I want. So then I can just click this X here next to the tab and close that tab out. Okay, what about this website? That's still not telling me what I want to know. So I'm going to close that tab out. Oh, this looks more like what I was interested in, learning about the actual city. Now I have both of my tabs open. I just went through 3 web pages in the amount of time it would have taken me to probably only view maybe 1.5 to 2. So now I have these tabs open. Another handy thing is if you're searching for something, like for instance, a couple days ago, I had to research a little bit of auto repair. I had several forums and, multiple sources of information coming in. I can use multiple tabs to be able to compare information, compare what people are saying about, whatever problem you might be looking at. Another fantastic use of tabs is if you are using a internet website that is a news website. You can middle click on multiple articles and have several articles all open at the same time. You can then read each article and then close out the tab, move to the next one, close out the tab, move to the next one, so on and so forth. So those are just a couple of examples of how effective tabs can be when you're actually using and browsing the internet. There's many, many, many other uses out there for them. So you can kind of just use your imagination and kind of come up with whatever works for you. So moving on now, we have our other 3 traditional browser buttons here, namely our back button, our forward button, and our refresh button. All of these should be fairly common in terms of what they do. Pretty much every browser in history has had these buttons. The back button obviously takes you back a page. The forward button takes you forward a page. The refresh button will reload or refresh the current page. The refresh button is handy for, again, things like news websites or websites that might change content often. It allows you to simply click the refresh button and it will bring up, the absolute latest headlines or latest changes to that page. It will also commonly clear your cache and reload the latest version of the page. As I'm sure you saw, there were a couple of squishy looking images here on our Novus Computers website, and a refresh cleared those right up. Obviously, something got stuck in this computer's cache, wasn't reading right, and so a refresh re-downloads those images and clears everything up. So leaving this side of the browser, we're going to jump over here to this side of the browser. Now, obviously, we've got our basic, close the window, shrink the window, minimize the window, those buttons over there. What we're going to focus on is these 4 buttons here. And the first one we're going to take a look at is our hub button. The hub button is also probably better known as the favorites menu. And if we click this button, you will see that we have our favorites menu. As you can see, I don't have any favorites in here at the moment, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is because when you first open Edge, especially if you've upgraded from Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, you're likely going to see this exact same screen. And I've had a couple people, call me and freak out because they had a long list of favorites, saved up in Internet Explorer, and they're all disappeared now. They're gone. They don't have them anymore. They hate it. Well, the import button here will solve all of your issues. All you have to do is click the import favorites button here, and it will give you the option to import straight from Internet Explorer. So if you click this import, you'll see it says all done. And if you go back to your favorites menu over here, you'll see that you now have favorites. So everything that was in Internet Explorer should pretty much port straight through. All your folders, anything that you had, grouped up or shaved out into separate, directories, stuff like that, all should be the same. So next, we have a second set of buttons that appears when we click this hub button. As you can see, I'll click it again, and you can see that there are several buttons more now. And the next one is the reading list. Now, the reading list is very, very similar to the favorites list. Its design is if you are, again, say browsing a news website or pretty much any website, you can browse and save an article to your reading list, so you can kind of skim the article and then read the full thing later. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to close this list out at the moment, simply so that I can show you how to add items to your favorites or your reading list. So we're going to close that out. I'm going to go to a website. We'll just go back to novuscomputers.com. And as you can see, there's another 2 buttons up here that have appeared. And the one is a star, which should be pretty much unequivocally across browsers known as the favorites button. So if I click this button, you can see that I'm given the option to add this into my favorites list. So I can give it a name. Normally there's a name already here, but if I want to call it something different, then I can type something in. I can also choose where exactly I want to save it. So if I have several folders in my favorites menu, as you know, I have one folder called favorites bar already. I can pick which folder I want to save that in, or if I have a new folder that I want to create, I can just click this create new folder line right here. So once I'm happy with everything here, I just click add. And as you can see, the star now turns gold to let me know that it is in my favorites list. And if I click my hub button, you can see that it is now here in my favorites list. If I want to remove it from my favorites list, I just need to right click on it and click delete. And there it goes. And you can see the star turns back to a black outline. So if I want to add this to my reading list, I click the same button. And instead of having it be over here on the favorites side, I just click this reading list button and it flips to the reading list side. So I can do the same thing here, just click add. And now if I come over to my hub and then over to my reading list, you can see here that it is now in my reading list. And if I click the button, it brings me right here. If I want to remove this from my reading list, I simply right click on it and click delete. So that's kind of an overview of the favorites and the reading list options. Next up in our little sub-menu bar here, we have history. So what we can see here under history is basically a long list of any pages we have visited. Your history goes back quite a long ways, so it's not just for this browsing session. It'll go back days, weeks, even months. So if you need to get back to a page that you were previously looking on, or if you're a parent and you're kind of curious about, what websites has Junior been visiting lately, typically you can find those entries in this list here. Now, that's not going to be guaranteed, and I will show you why here coming up in a little bit. But typically, most all of your browsing history will be listed right here. You can also select this Clear All History button, and this is one of the reasons why you may not find everything here. If you click Clear All History, as you can see, we've got a couple of checkboxes here, and this will allow us to clear different types of browsing data that has been saved to your computer. So, for instance, browsing history will clear all of this stuff out. So anything that is in this list will be cleared if I leave this browsing history line checked. Cookies and saved website data, that is another one that will clear out any cookies. So a lot of websites use cookies to, check this fact that you've been on their website. For instance, if you go to, say, Amazon.com and you sign in with your Amazon account and you click the Remember Me option, that puts what is known as a cookie on your computer so that next time you go to Amazon, you don't have to sign in again. So clearing your cookies will remove those, and in this case, in the case of Amazon.com, or the example there, you would have to sign back in again. Cache data and files, that basically are the bits of web page that are saved to your computer. Download history is a history of any files that you've downloaded. Form data and passwords are autocomplete entries. If you've had data that you've searched for on, say, websites like Google or stuff like that, form data can be removed from there. And then passwords are obviously any passwords that you've had Edge remember. There's some more options here that I'm not going to go over just because a lot of this stuff doesn't necessarily need to be cleared, but most of it is pretty self-explanatory. And then after you have selected whatever you want to, select to clear, you just hit clear. So now finally we're going to move on to our download button. And this will be a list of any files that you have downloaded previously. So if you have a file that you've downloaded and you're not 100% sure where it is on your desktop or in your documents folder, downloads folder, wherever it ended up, you can usually find a copy of it here in your downloads list, and it'll show a file right here. So it's a nice handy way to be able to get back to what you were doing. So any of these buttons should be available at pretty much any time. You can click back and forth between any of them at will. And again, these are all listed under the Hub button, which is this button right here. So again, you can view your favorites, a reading list, your browsing history, and your downloads list all from this single button. So one more thing that I'm going to touch on just before we move on is this button over here, which I'm sure everybody is going to probably be wondering what this is for. Pin this pane or a pin button. All this simply does is it makes this list here stay put. So as you can see right now, if I click over here on the web page, this list disappears every single time. If I click this pin button though, you see that I can click all over the place. I can go to a different article. I can do whatever I want. This list stays here. The only way I'm going to get rid of it is either by clicking this X right here, which will remove it, or I can click this button up here, which will again close it out. So that's an overview of the Hub button. Next up, we're going to overview real quick is the Web Notes button here. This is kind of a neat little feature. It was introduced in Edge. It's kind of a novelty feature, but there might be some people out there who can make some use of it. The Web Notes button, if I click it, you'll see that we kind of get a different colored heading up here. And we also have some extra tools over here. We have a pen tool, we have a highlighter, we have an eraser, a text comments or type notes box, and a clipping tool. So if I just go ahead and click on this pen tool, as you can see, it allows me to pick a color. And then, as you can see, I can draw on this website. I can draw, multiple colors in multiple places. If I scroll up and down the page after drawing, you can see that these sections actually stay put. So really, you're actually drawing on more like a picture of the web page or a copy of the web page. You're not actually drawing on the website itself. Nobody's going to be able to see, what you're drawing. If somebody else is browsing my website right now, then nobody's going to be able to see that I've drawn on, on the page here. It's all going to look as it was before I did any of this. So you can also use the highlighter to highlight certain functions, whether it be text, whatever. The eraser button can be used to erase things. The text comments box you can use to insert comments, like read this article. And the clip button, as you can see, it kind of dims the screen here. It says drag to copy region. You can simply copy this or drag around whatever you want, and it will copy this to your system buffer. If you don't know what your system buffer is, I will have a video coming out pretty soon that will explain all of that, including things like copy, paste, all that type of stuff. So over here we have a couple extra buttons. Exit button will obviously take us out of this mode and return us back to the real website. The save button will allow us to save the any changes or modifications we've made. We can save this to Microsoft's OneNote, which comes by default with Windows 10. It does require a Microsoft account to use. You can also save it to your favorites list. So if you have a specific page and you need to make notes on that page, whether it be you're following the advice of somebody for, a service problem, you're trying to fix something, and you want to make a couple extra notes about it, you can save a custom version of that web page to your favorites. You can also save that same custom web page to your reading list. I've showed you before exactly how you can access both of those, so I'm not going to worry too much about showing you where it is after that. But that allows you to save those images or those pages to your favorites and reading lists, as well as OneNote. So over here we have the share button as well, which you can use to, if you have your email set up through, say, the Mail app. You can also send it through messaging. You can share it on Twitter. There's also several more apps in the Windows Store that you can use that will also appear in this list after you get them installed. So that share button is also the same as this share button. As you can see, we get the same, this is pretty much the same exact list of different applications that we can share the website to. You can share a link to it through, mail. You can send it through messaging if you have, Skype messaging enabled, or you can post it on Twitter, go through OneNote, however have you. So finally, over here on the very right corner, we have the More button, which this button actually should be called the main menu button because this contains pretty much all of the items that your typical file menu will. So we're going to go ahead and open this menu up. And as you can see, we have several different options here. The first two up here is New Window and New In Private Window. Both of these will open up a new window or a new Edge window. So as you can see, I now have two of them here. An In Private window will open up a browsing in private window or an in private window. Many browsers have these. Chrome has its incognito mode. Firefox has a private mode as well. Most, again, I believe Opera and even Safari have their own versions of this as well. In private, basically what this means is Edge will not save any history, cookies, temporary files, downloads, all of that stuff will not be saved. So basically anywhere that you go within this window itself, it will not show up in your browsing history or you will not show up in your cookies or anything like that. So if for some reason you have something that you're browsing on the computer and it's multiple people are using the computer and you want to keep things private, this is the window you use. So this is why I said earlier that in the browsing history, this may not be a complete list of everything that has been on the computer. And why? Because that in private window will not save those items that are browsed in it to this list. So if you have somebody on the computer who's using the in private window, you won't see what their history has been in this list. So also in this menu, we have our zoom feature, which if you are a little hard of eyesight, or if you're on a web page that has very, very small type, this is a handy feature. You can simply click the plus button here, and as you can see, we're zooming into our page here. Our type's getting very large, and images get large too. They might get a little grainy if they're not, super high resolution image. If we click the minus button here, we can also zoom back out, and even smaller yet. We can go all the way down to 10%, make things really small. So that's basically the zoom options. You can also use Control plus and Control minus. That'd be Control plus on the number pad and Control minus on the number pad to do the same thing. As you can see here, I'm doing this on the number pad. You can also press Control 0, I believe. No, maybe Control 0. Nope. We'll just go ahead and click minus back to 100% here. And that will restore it back to the original size here. So again, Control plus or Control minus on the keyboard will also do the same thing. Cast media to device. This allows you to cast a web page or whatever media to things like a smart TV, stuff like that, or similar device. Find on page is a very handy tool if you need to search for specific text on a page. It's handy if you're doing internet searches for something and it brings up a page full of text and you want to be able to find whatever search term you were searching for in that text. If you click this button, you'll see we have an extra bar appear up here. And we can simply enter in whatever text we want to search for. As you can see, I enter the word quick, and it pops up and says there are two matches, and it's highlighting the first one, which if we look here, we can see that it is indeed highlighting that down here. If we click either of these arrow buttons, it will cycle through the next set of, words that it finds. So as you can see here, it's found two words. There's quick and quick again, and cycling between them, as you can see, will flip back and forth which one it's highlighting. The options over here, you can match whole word or match case. So match whole word, if for instance I remove the Q and the U here and just have ick, you can see that it still finds ick at the end of quick. However, if I select match whole word, you can see that it now unhighlights that and becomes no results. Why? Because it is only searching for these three letters by themselves. It's not actually searching for those three letters anywhere it can find them. Only if they have a space on each side is it actually going to display that. So match case is also another option to help narrow things down. For instance, if I put the Q and the U back in here, and now I have the word quick, you'll see it says no results. Well, why is that? Well, simply because this is a capital Q here. So if I replace this Q with a capital Q, you'll see that it now comes back up. And that is because I have this match case setting enabled. As you can see, there's a check mark by it. So that's kind of a handy feature to be able to find things on a web page for you. And a lot of that will, again, if you're searching for a specific term on a page full of text, makes things a lot simpler. So other stuff, let's see, the print button here. That one is probably going to be one that many, many people are going to want to know about. The print button will simply bring up this print dialog here, and it will allow you to select a printer, select the orientation, all of that good stuff, and then you can print that directly to whatever printer you have selected. Again, that is up here in this more or main menu, and again, it's up there, and then it's print. Pin this page to start is kind of a handy thing. If I click this button and then I click yes, this will actually, as you can see, pin this right to the start menu. So if, for instance, I close this window out and then I come back here and click on it, it brings me right back to this web page again. So pinning web pages to your start menu is kind of a handy way to be able to quickly access specific pages. If you have a favorite news site or something, then that's a quick, easy way of being able to get to that. And then if you want to remove it from your start menu, it's again right-click, unpin from start. If you want to know more about the start menu and tiles and everything, Make sure you watch the start menu video. It's a bit of a long video, but it's well worth the watch as it pretty much goes over just about every aspect of the new Windows 10 start menu. So moving on, we've got our F12 Developer Tools. Most people won't use this, so I'm not going to really touch on it too much. This is basically a handy tool if you need to, see how a web page is made or how it works, the code behind it, so to speak. Again, most people aren't going to be interested in this, but in case you are, it's there for your browsing pleasure. Open with Internet Explorer. Believe it or not, Internet Explorer does still exist in Windows 10. It's just kind of hidden and not really readily apparent. If you click this button here, however, it will open whatever web page you are on in Internet Explorer, which, as you can see, here's our good old trusty Internet Explorer. This is commonly used if you're going to need to have a web page that isn't displaying right in Edge, or it requires like an ActiveX plugin or something. You can use the Open Internet Explorer to be able to browse those legacy pages in an older version of, an internet browser. So send feedback will allow you to send, feedback, thoughts, suggestions, stuff to Microsoft if you so desire. Microsoft always does say that they value your feedback, so if you do have a suggestion or you're having an issue, make sure you let them know using that button there. Settings is basically going to be a menu full of different options and customization settings for Edge. I'm not going to go through every single thing right now since this is just a crash course video. I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can, but I will go over a couple of them simply because the main one that most people are going to want to know about is in this menu. So I went ahead and clicked the settings button there, and as you can see, we have our settings pane open here, and I'm just going to pin this pane so that it doesn't close on me. A first couple settings here is choose a theme. We can choose between a light and a dark theme. As you can see, the dark theme pretty much turns everything black with white text, while the light theme has everything white with black text. That's pretty simple, straightforward. Open with is the one that most everybody's going to want to know about. This allows you to set your home page in Edge. Traditionally, if you open a copy of Edge, you will start with this start page here. If that just doesn't cut it for you, you can also set it to open with the new tabs page, which is very similar, as you can see here, but has a couple of different things along the top here, like the top sites you've recently visited, stuff like that. You can open it in that page instead. Previous pages, if you are browsing a set of web pages and if you have multiple tabs open or not, either way, and you have this option selected and you close out Edge and reopen it, those pages that you were previously browsing will reopen. So it basically turns it into one long browsing session instead of you open it, you do, go to your websites, close it, you open it again, and you're back to starting over. It allows you to basically start wherever you left off. A specific page or pages if none of the options above are working for you and you would prefer to have a website like MSN or Yahoo or Google available right from the get-go. This is the option that you want, a specific page or pages. So go ahead and we're going to select this option. And as you can see here, that gives us another drop-down menu here that pops up. And as you can see right now, it's set to MSN. So if MSN is what you wanted, you don't have to do anything else. But if you say want Yahoo or Google or something as your home page, then we're going to go ahead and click this drop down. And as you can see, you can select MSN, Bing, or set a custom website. So if we set a custom website, you'll see another little thing pop up right here. Traditionally, this is the first one. It just comes up at About Start. If we click this, however, you'll see that we can actually type in here and we can set our web page to whatever we want. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all of this and get rid of it. And I'm just going to go ahead and set Google as my home page. So what I need to do here is I need to type in the full web address. So it needs to be www.google.com. You can't just type in Google because that will not work. You have to make sure it's actual full www.google.com. And we're going to go ahead and hit our save button here. And now I'm going to go ahead and close things out here. If I open up Edge again, you can see that we have Google as a home page right from the get-go. And that will appear every single time I open up Edge. You can also set more than one home page when you first open it. So I'm going to go ahead and open our settings back up here, as you can see. As you can see, there's a second box down here that says enter a web address. So if I enter, say, Yahoo as a web address, and then I click this plus button here, you can see that Yahoo now appears in this list, and this box drops down one line. So now if I close out and reopen, you can see that I still get Google as a home page. However, Yahoo will open up in a separate tab up here. So now I have both tabs open and available. So if you like to use Google for your internet searching, but you use Yahoo for your, say, your mail, then having both of these web pages open can be a major, major convenience feature. If you have a setting of or set of web pages that, are opening and you don't necessarily want them to, you can get rid of them simply by clicking this X here next to the actual web address name, and that will remove it from the list and it will not open again. So just to brush quickly over the rest of these settings, open new tabs with top sites allows you to basically see, sites you've used, recently. Top sites of suggested content will, open up a page very similar to the original start page. A blank page will do what it says, just opens up a blank white page with your address bar. Go from there. Again, you can choose to clear browsing data from here as well as edit your favorite settings. Your favorite settings will allow you to import from Internet Explorer or do things like that. You can sync your content across Windows devices if you have a Microsoft account available and active. And you can also view reading styles. There's a couple different options here that you can play with. I will cover the reading pane here very, very shortly, but this allows you to change the font sizes as well as the background and reading style as far as like the theme and everything for that. So there are more settings to be found if you click this View Advanced Settings button. I won't go over these. Many of these are self-explanatory and are a little bit beyond this. Trying to keep this short. But if you want to browse, feel free to. And there's, again, most of these are all pretty much self-explanatory. One important one is that if you don't like to use Bing when you search in the address bar, you can find that under the advanced settings. You just click this change button, and it will show you a list of providers that it has discovered. If you don't see your search provider in here, so for instance, if you don't see Google in there, all you need to do is just go to google.com and then check again, and it will learn that as a search provider. So that's an overview of the settings button. So we're just about wrapped up here. The one thing I am going to cover here still is the reading pane. The reading pane is very handy if you like browsing articles and stuff, and you don't like having a lot of extra, garbage along the side here. So for instance, if I want to browse, this article on my website, but I don't want to have this, I don't want to have the social media icons or this, extra pages down below, or if, there were ads on this site, I wouldn't want to see the ads. Well, as you can see, there is a button up here that says Reading View. It looks kind of like a book. And if we click this button, you can see that the article itself actually shows up, and all the text and everything is there. And it kind of shows up on this nice soft background here. And it allows you to just read the article with just the text there, and there's nothing else, in the way, no clutter, nothing, there. If you want to go back, all you have to do is hit the back button, or you can just click the reading button again. And again, it also does keep all of your images in the article and everything. So if I click this button here, as you can see, again, it just removes, it removes images, it removes everything. It just gives you the text, and that's all you need. You're just basically the same thing as reading a book. So as you can see here, we have images, but it won't keep those images in the reading view. Well, in that case, it did that one. Sometimes it might pull an image, sometimes it won't. But anyway, that is an overview of the reading view. Again, that does not have anything to do with your reading list. Those are two separate things. The reading view is just a type of way to view a web page. The reading list is more or less like a type of favorites list, so to speak, about basically, saving articles and stuff to read. Not all websites will support reading view. Not all pages. I suppose I should correct myself there. Not all pages will support reading view. It is going to be web page dependent. So, for instance, as you can see, as I went into this page, here that was an actual article, you can see the reading button here, the reading view button does appear, and I can click on it. However, if I go back to the main page here, you can see that button is now grayed out because there's no reading view content in this article, in this page. So some pages that you go to will have, an article in them, but it will not be available for reading view. A lot of that typically ends up being on older websites that were not built to modern HTML or modern web page standards. So occasionally you might find an article that, hey, I can't click the reading view button and, read it the way I want. Well, you're kind of up a creek because that page just was not written correctly to support reading view. So that should do it for our crash course on Microsoft Edge. By now, you should hopefully feel fairly comfortable being able to use it and, feel comfortable having it be your everyday browser. It is very, very fast on most Windows 10 systems. As you can see, opening it up here is pretty darn close to instant. It might be just a little bit more sluggish on ordinary everyday computers. This machine, it happens to be running a solid state drive, so everything pops up very fast. But even for most modern computers that are just running a normal hard drive and everything, it still pops up very, very quickly. So that is one of the nice things about Edge, is that it is a very fast browser. So other than that, that should do it. So again, this has been Andrew with Novus Computers and novuscomputers.com. That is Novus dash as in a hyphen or a minus sign and the word computers.com. And you can go ahead and follow us on Twitter at Novus Computers. And if you have any questions, you can either get a hold of us there, or you can go ahead and post a comment below on this video. Also, again, you can also visit our website under our contacts page and fill out a form and send us an email. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.